So in my JXy video, which I'm guessing should be my previous video, yes, I honestly don't know for sure, it's possible that it's not, I really don't plan my shit well. I said something you might remember about people's own artwork and passion projects. And personally, I've got all the time in the world for when YouTubers do long-form passion projects like this, pouring all their energy, all their essence into making a piece of content that they truly wanted to bring into the world. Something that's so well and truly them that only they could have set out to make that video and have it turn out in the exact way it did. Something that's well and truly the unique brainchild of that individual in that way. Love it, love it, love it a lot, all day, every day. And it's still true for all different kinds of projects. I think the beautiful thing about how people can share their own passion projects and brainchilds on YouTube, especially with something like, I don't know, a comedic animation done by a couple of independent animators working with any budget, just making whatever they can, is how it can provide a unique look into someone's identity and who they are, through things like their own unique art style, their brand of humour, their writing structure. Pretty much, we're all the same, yet all different, in a beautiful and uniquely profound way that we can take for granted sometimes. Those differences being influenced by things like your childhood, how you were raised, the things you've been through, good and bad, the things you liked and disliked, the media you consumed, what you learned as you got older. None of these are the same for any two people. If two kids exactly the same age live right next to each other on the same street in the same town, went to the same schools together, were best friends growing up, had the same circle of friends, studied the same subjects, went on to the same college, taking the same degree, so pretty much living identical lives on the surface, there'd still be so many countless factors at play that would still make their lives completely different and unrecognizable from each other, like their relationships, their personalities, their upbringings, the things they liked. And that's why I find those kinds of artwork so special, as they can only have come from your mind at that time with all your lifelong history behind it, and it illustrates all of that in a fascinating way. Now, with that pretentious as fuck thesis statement behind me, enter one Thomas Tomsko Ridgewell, creator of the Asdfmovie series. An average guy on the surface, but a guy I find so damn interesting, really relate to, and I'm definitely a fan of. As someone who myself used to always draw shitty funny cartoons and doodles for fun and to make people laugh, sometimes even tried to make shitty short films by drawing cartoons in MS Paint, stringing the images together in Movie Maker, typing captions in to add dialogue, and even burning the completed video to DVD to show my classmates in primary school. Yes, that's actually something primary school George did, and try my hand at filming stupid videos and short films on different occasions with friends as a child. Someone like Tomsko was pretty much exactly who young George wanted to be. A guy who'd perfected his independent animation so much to the point that he could release fun short animations on YouTube that people would love and get a kick out of. A guy who, because of the awesome friends he'd made in school and in uni, had people to film the silly short film ideas he'd come up with and be able to show them off online. And had even put the effort in to make his projects all the more professional, with real budgets, sets, costumes, design work, professional editing, all with the help of the friends he'd made along the way. And while I was never a committed super fan or anything and haven't religiously watched everything in his catalogue, the guy's essentially lived young George's dream, and I definitely looked up to him for a long while growing up. And like many people who grew up around the same time I did, I of course became a fan of the guy's most iconic and successful series, Asdfmovie. Asdfmovie is something that really needs no introduction other than just how perfect it was for the time of its inception. Going back to 2008, when YouTube was only a couple of short years old and still had the broadcast yourself tagline, when no one was trying to dive into the YouTube scene to harvest as much cash out of it as possible by churning out the most corporate, marketable content on the internet, and when a million other dickheads like me weren't just making their own brand of cookie cutter rant sono content. Look, I'm not a rant sono, okay? I'm nice and smiley and calm. I don't rant about anything, and if I did, it wouldn't even be successful. Ignore that. Instead, people were using the platform for just that, broadcasting themselves. Anyone who was bored and just looking to turn on their camera and have a quick laugh, or as a way to give others a quick laugh, or if they'd had a creative itch and just wanted to make something fun and post it somewhere, or had caught someone falling over and injuring themselves on camera and wanted a backup plan in case they couldn't get the 250 quid from Harry Hill for it. And all these people and more were uploading to the site for those plain, pure, simple reasons, because they'd made something and they wanted to show it off to the people. And people would log on to the site, see what funny, interesting shit they could find, save it to their favourites, or however they kept track of their favourite videos back in the Middle Ages, and share it around. And the perfect thing for that landscape was this, a not even 2-minute animated reel of quick few second long sketches with a simple animation style paired with this dry, deadpan ironic twinge, with a sprinkle of the mid to late 2000s lol random XD palette of humour, all cheaply thrown together just for fun by a couple of guys. It was perfect for the time and practically destined to go viral. The series would get subsequent sequels, become more and more iconic, and would go on to be Tomsko's baby even to this day, with the newest entry, Asdfmovie 14, coming out just earlier this year. And to loop back around to what I was saying earlier, it's crazy how this series managed to contribute to the scene of internet humour, even just humour in general, especially my generation. Hearing kids in school quoting and laughing about Asdfmovie, showing each other the videos, making references to it in casual conversation, turning jokes from it into inside jokes with their peers, was insanely common. And if you're watching this right now and you went to school during the 2000s and 2010s, 2010s, chances are you've not only overheard a lot of this stuff yourself, but directly engaged in it. This series was so easy to fall in love with, so easy to like, and again, so perfect for its time that it went on to have such a massive reach and touch so many young lives. And it's crazy to think that what started being the unique brainchild of Tomska's mind at the time ended up becoming one of the many millions of things contributing to their own humour and their own childhoods, being one of the many factors that moulded our own lives, unique to us, adding on happy memories and giving them their own meaning. And that to me sums up what's so beautiful about us being to share our own personal creations online, have them become successful from nothing like Tom and this series did. Anyway, that's all the sappy shit out of the way. There's my little justification for why I decided this should be my next project I take on, and now I've got some YouTube content to make, boys. That's the reason you clicked on this video. It's in the title and it's in the thumbnail, but this is probably so like flimsy and underwhelming compared to the last few minutes. I'm gonna make content one day that's just as impactful, trust me. YouTubers are the future of entertainment, and the first world leader to have also been a social media influencer will be in power by 2050. Anyway, Asdfmovie's had a lot of entries. The series has been going on for like 13 years after all. Some entries are more successful than others, some more iconic than others, some with more well-known and well-liked jokes, some more liked than others even by the series creator. And while that first one was perfect for the time it came out, what about the entries that followed? How did the series adapt and evolve for changing times, or alternatively, how did it not? Well, we're gonna look at that today and go through every Asdfmovie, review them, and rank them from worst to best. And yes, I'm well aware that this is not the SpongeBob video, and I know I said that that video would be next. I know that originally that was going to be my first video, but it wasn't for many reasons, and that video's been in production for like a year and a half now.
10 months.
But trust me, that hasn't changed. It is still in production. It is coming. I promise. Please don't cry.
Look at this dude. Can't even get around to making a fucking video on SpongeBob. How lazy can you be? Just stick to the Who content. It's all you're good for.
Alright, I get it. Let's calm it down.
Bruh, this man has been putting off a SpongeBob video for months upon months in favor of ranting about Doctor Who and simping over Doctor Who creators. Like, dude, there are other shows.
Okay, guys, let's take it easy. Come on.
George? Where's the SpongeBob video, George? Where's the fucking SpongeBob video? Give it to me or I will fucking cut you.
Okay, what the hell? That TV's not even plugged in. How the fuck did you do that? Now, this may seem like a weird and random thing to focus a ranking and review video on, and you're right. I mean, a lot of people at least like Asdfmovie, but I'll admit, out of all the things for me to be into, it's an odd one. But I mean, hey, I reckon we got some nice solid vibes going on here, and we can have some fun with this, so lay back, relax, maybe grab a fridge cold can of Malibu Cola, and just have some fun talking about the inner intricacies of some stupid webtoons with me. If that doesn't sound like a good time, I don't know what does. For the most part, there's nothing I can say about the first Asdfmovie that wouldn't be me just repeating what I've already said in this video, but one thing I can say is it's incredibly charming. The visual style and how rough around the edges it is, the bad mic quality, the fact that the animator had to change the aspect ratio mid-project being highly noticeable, the real personalised feel of the end credits, the fact that the entire voice cast consists of just 2 people including Tomska himself. It's funny as well because there's only 8 jokes in here and all, which feels like very little for the series by today's standards. And I think the reason for this is just how slow this thing is. Seriously, normally when you think of Asdfmovie you think of how snappy and rapid fire the gags are, but in this there's a good few silences that last multiple seconds. Granted, sometimes this does work in the joke's favour. And this clearly worked at the time because some of the most iconic Asdf gags are here, but also there's a couple of gags that are just what people stereotypically imagine the series is, just things happening just because. I mean, that's unfair. This is done well in plenty of gags, you know, it's all in the execution, and in multiple gags it's done in ways that are still kind of funny, you know, can get a mild chuckle or a hearty little nose exhale out of you. But for the most part, yeah, that's mainly what these jokes are, but in a real charming coat of paint that provides a real authentic and earnest look into the mid to late 2000s YouTube landscape, and that's probably what I get the most out of the first Asdfmovie, seeing how far we've come. It's starting out at the bottom of the list, but also the top. Hell yeah. One thing I can actually give Asdfmovie 2 right out the gate, and I don't know if anyone will agree with me on this, but it's my honest take. 2 in terms of visual presentation is the best in the series. Pretty much all the other entries from here on out, and even the first one to an extent, are made up of quite still straight lines, and when they curve for things like mouth movements still look very digital and mechanical. Whereas 2 looks so stylized, lots of curved lines, and some of the most expressive looking characters so far, with each frame of facial expressions looking hand-drawn. Which I don't think they even are, but it helps the characters look probably the most expressive they have in the whole series. And as for actual jokes and humour, 2's also up there. The jumping quality is palpable. Not even a year and a half, and the humour's already evolved a good bit. Now, we still don't need the joke to end on a character pulling a scared reaction face to what's happening, that's still unnecessary, but for the most part the pace has been really tightened up, and it shows because we've shot up from 8 jokes to an additional 7 on top of that. And that's something that this entry for the most part nails, comedic timing. Even when the joke is something pretty stupid happening, the comedic timing is executed perfectly, letting it catch you off guard in a way that's genuinely funny. Jokes like Pie Flavoured Pie, the I Like Trains trilogy, and Desmond the Moonbear alone being perfect examples of that, all iconic Asdf gags for a reason. And while sure we haven't yet reached a point of the humour evolving past goofy random things happening, there's still somewhat of a logical through line to the jokes. Somewhat. Guy is allergic to quote-unquote adorableness, he gets a cute kitten thrown in his face. Aww. And he dies. Sure, still ridiculous, but there's a logical through line there that helps it flow from point A to point B, as do most of the gags here. It's a great evolution of Asdf 1's formula. That fact and the visuals just being some of the best in the series in my opinion is what allows it to really shine, plus of course the cast of voices here. We've got a few new names and yeah, they're all super talented. The perfect marriage for this kind of comedy is comedic timing and great line delivery, and Asdf 2 has that in spades. I love this one, top of the list so far, though admittedly that wasn't exactly hard to accomplish. But now the real question is, how will the next one fare? Pretty much everything I praised Asdfmovie 2 for, you can also do for 3. To an extent. It's still great and internet iconography levels are funny, I mean of course it is, it's Asdfmovie 3, one of the most iconic and loved entries in the series. But, I don't know, it still manages to feel like a little bit of a step down from 2. Visually, the elements of what I love about 2 are still kinda there, but there's definitely a big apparent step towards the entirely digital and very straight-lined and simplified approach to the visuals that we'd end up seeing from the next entry onwards. And in terms of the jokes themselves, there's still plenty of iconic stuff here. The pace is still nice and tight and snappy, but I don't know, this one just doesn't quite hit as hard for me. It actually feels somewhere directly between how the first one handled its humour and how the second one did, if that makes any sense. I mean, I don't know, it probably doesn't. But a lot of the jokes feel like something you'd see in the first one in terms of how it functions and what it is, but approached in the way that the second one would in terms of how it's paced and how it's presented. Yeah, I think that's it. Funnily enough, there's actually something I noticed about this one that didn't feel quite as present in the previous 2, and that's the fact that a lot of the jokes, instead of being a quirky thing happening to a character, the quirky thing that happens comes from the interactions between characters, usually playing off of their dialogue or their actions towards each other. The very first joke, the new dog joke, being a good example. And Tom himself has actually gone on record as saying that he found this joke, which was submitted by a fan, to be the funniest joke that had been in the series so far, and while I don't know how many of these jokes have been made beforehand, it does make sense that many of the following jokes would follow suit.
The new dog joke, when I had a competition for someone to write an Asdfmovie joke, and their joke was funnier than any of the other jokes in the actual episode. Fuck.
Examples being, well, literally every joke in the video. Legit, go watch it. Every single one of them is like this. Joey, did you eat my sandwich? Here, hold this. Salad punching, screw gravity, goodbye world, and the rest of them. Of course, not to say the previous 2 didn't have plenty of this either, because they both did. But there are also plenty of jokes with multiple characters, but with the gag not necessarily stemming from how they played off of each other, more just, again, another quirky thing happening to one of them. But I don't know, it was interesting to notice this, and I see it as actually quite a big step forward in terms of how the comedy is approached, which is good because there was plenty more of this in the episodes that followed. This one's going just below Asdfmovie 2 for me. And speaking of an episode that followed, there's always been one thing that stood out to me about Asdfmovie 4, and that's the fact that it was the episode to discover colour. Specifically, red. There are quite a few jokes to involve a bloody death, or at least a malicious act of violence being committed against another character. In fact, something I remember picking up on even years ago was towards the end of the episode, every joke from I Am a Stegosaurus to Banana Fight containing either a character being killed, a gun being pointed at a character or used on a character, blood, or all of the above, with 3 of those 5 consecutive jokes featuring blood, and 3 of them featuring use or wielding of a gun. Now, Asdfmovie 3 did have a tiny bit of blood in it when one character gets shot, but here it's really on display, and honestly really sticks out with just how present it is here. Not that that necessarily means anything, of course, it's just an interesting detail. Even Tom himself seems to think that it was a little bit overdone here, or was at least somewhat out of place, just a bit.
No, in a fight. Yeah, let's try a little harder, it's funny. So Asdfmovie 4 definitely has a few dud beats in it, like just jokes that I'm trying too hard on. Really the ones that are just someone getting shot in the face. I don't know why I was like, the shooting in the face one was funny from the last one, let's just do that some more.
Other than that, Asdfmovie 4 is another slapper. I don't think it quite reaches the heights of Asdfmovie 2, but there's still plenty of iconic jokes, and I actually think it has some of the most quotable we've seen in the series thus far. I'm gonna do an internet, pianos, this is a robbery, I wanna be a pie, I stole your face, you are a chair darling, I am a stegosaurus. And we're seeing even more of the quote-unquote randomness being less random and more actually stemming from the base of a joke being taken to its extreme and twisted to create an actual functional gag. That process has definitely started to become really refined here. This entry was also the debut of the iconic Asdfmovie animation style that would see continue to be used to this day and only start to be replaced in the most recent 2 entries. And while I personally prefer how Asdfmovie 2 and to an extent 3 looked, I can't deny this a great and iconic style that suits the series to a T. It's great, popping this one right above Asdfmovie 3 but below Asdfmovie 2. But wait, George, I hear you saying, there's like 10 more Asdfmovies to go and this video is almost finished. And that's because, well, I have other stuff to work on, so I'm going to be dividing this one into multiple parts. And no, not in the lazy haphazard way I did with my Revolution of the Daleks review. Oh no. This one's being planned as a multi-parter right from the get-go. Mainly because I'll be working on this fucking forever if I don't, and because I already shot myself in both feet like twice over with the amount of Who videos I've started the channel with, so we need to get more variety onto the channel. So yeah. For now, I'd recommend checking out Tomska's Do I Hate Asdfmovie video to really get into his head and see what he personally thinks about each entry. Bearing in mind it is quite old now and only goes up to Asdfmovie 10, but it's a great watch and it's a real interesting look into how this series was influenced by the stage he as a person was at the time of each entry being made, and really helps reinforce the stuff I talked about at the beginning of this video. Speaking of all that stuff, that's the main thesis statement you'll want to keep in mind for the next part of this, because if you think I'm going to be repeating all that next time... No! Anyways, I'll see you in the next one when we'll add Asdfmovies 5 to 10 to the list, some of those later entries being the start of an entirely new generation's humour being shaped, so that'll be fun. Hopefully it won't lead to any modern Asdf supremacists coming for me if they don't like it, but are they even a thing? Maybe, I don't know, that's a weird concept actually. Let me know in the comments if you are one of them, because... wow. But anyways, thanks so much for watching, all you beautiful people, however many of you there may be, and I'll see you next time. Cheers!